Dave here, how are you? Today is the 17th. I was looking down my sheet, it said 3rd of May, so that's wrong, forget that. 17th of May, 2020, and today on the show we have Mr. Gifkins himself demonstrating the Gifkins jig. So we've got it all set up here in the lift and lock router table mount plate. So if you've got an old router that you don't use at all, stick it in one of these and there you go. It'll work as a proper lift. So Cole's only just using this at the moment for the first time today. So we have to make some allowances just in case he does something a little bit different to what he normally does. Don't crucify him. Okay, so sound is good, image is good. I'm getting messages down the side here. Ian, Kerry, g'day Dave, and the many faithful followers. Hope everyone is well. Again, that's what I would replicate, that comment. The other thing is, after the show today, we'll be doing another Zoom meeting for Patreon users, or my patrons. So if you want to join into that, Cole will be with me on that Zoom meeting. And if you've got any questions that you may not have been able to get covered during the show today, Cole will be able to answer them for you. We'll only have a half an hour, because that's maybe 35 minutes, and that'll be that. So you can keep your eye on the clock on the clubhouse wall here for what's happening during the day. And what I'm going to do is, before we get into the show, I'm going to show you a picture from Brett Thomas, his Turner number 4 restoration. So Ian, here we go. This is Brett Thomas's. This was absolutely ready for the bin, you could say, before Brett got a hold of it. Here's another picture. So Brett, thank you very much for sending those in. And I'll come back to the main picture here. If you've got pictures of projects that you're doing or a restoration, by all means, send them in to me. The email address will be down the bottom. The giveaway, I will try and, I forgot to put the link. I think I forgot to put the link for Rafflecopter in the description box at the bottom. I'll do that as soon as the show finishes, or if I get a chance during the show. No, I think I'll wait till the end. And so then that's for the lift and lock router lift. These are worth about $520, $550 odd. This is open to Australia and New Zealand. The competition will run for a little bit longer than it normally does. I'm going to let it run for maybe 10 days. One lucky winner, and Carbatec will post it out to you. It's a very, very nice lift. Okay, so I think that's about it. I'm reading down the side here. Mungle, morning all. Wow, it's crystal clear. Sure is. Quad HD. Oh, it's something that someone reminded me of during the week. They corrected me, and that's right. I had said last week that HD was 720 progressive lines down the screen. It's not. It's 480 by 720 pixels wide. That's where I got it wrong. So it's 1440 lines in comparison to 480, or full HD is 1080 lines progressive. This is 1440. If I go up to 4K, you really aren't going to see a difference, and my streaming probably wouldn't be able to handle that intensity. So we're just going with this at the moment, but it's a whole lot better. Going to have another quick read. Peter Woolworth, very nice work. Matteo, good morning, Dave. Mike Hughes, morning from cool Canberra. David, Lucy, live and exciting. Good morning, everyone, and special welcome to Cole, watching from hospital again. David, come on, get out of hospital, buddy. Silver, hey, someone was selling Turner plane handles on eBay a week or so. I saw those, and don't buy them. The reason being, the knob on the front of the plane had a massive chip out of the back. You will not polish that out. Forget it. If you want to get the rear tote, by all means, grab that one, but not the front knob. Now, I'm going to invite Cole in. We're not going to do any handshaking because we're practicing social distancing. So, Cole, if you'd like to come in, what we can do is we can do an elbow.
Oh, yeah,
we can do that thing.
Yeah, we can do that.
So Cole is also mic'd up, separate microphone. This is the first time I've taken advantage of using this setup with 2 people. And again, thank you so much to my patrons, because if it wasn't for you guys, I just couldn't afford to be able to do these things. So Cole, tell us what you're going to do and why the Gifkins dovetail jig is such a nice item.
Well, for a start,
I'll step
I just
back.
want to say.
Do you switch around this side?
All right.
I took a big breath first.
Okay.
I'm going to swing this camera around a little bit.
I just want to say, for those people who are fiddling around with hand-cut dovetails
Back a little. Yeah, keep talking.
and struggling to get them right, I implore you, keep trying. You'll get it in the end. But in the meantime, I've got the jig that actually will give you perfect dovetails every time. Okay, all you need to do is set it up. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to show Dave how to make a little box frame. Okay, so I've got some timber already set up here, and we'll have a little play with that. And so, first of all, what you need to do is you need to set yourself up with some material and a nice jig. And one of the things that I've noticed with the lifts, they make things really, really easy because everything's done above the table. The thing that you need to make sure is that they're dead flat with the top of the table all the time, particularly if you're using tools like this one on top of the table. Okay, so it's always a good idea to have a little play with that. Okay, just make sure that's nice and flat to work with.
I'll pipe in here.
Yeah.
I hadn't set mine up dead flat, and Cole nearly refused to use my setup.
No.
So we're going to counter that by making sure that the jig is travelling on my router table totally. I didn't have enough time to just do the final adjustments to get it up dead level. So we're going to straddle that.
I won't hold that up.
Bit important.
It's all
thank
good.
you.
It's all good,
You're
mate.
very
Like
kind.
it's you didn't know I was coming anyway, did you? So
no warning. Just knocked on the door, saw the light on.
Okay. I met the ducks outside actually. They were quite cute. So what we need to do is when you're setting up to making small boxes and things like that, you need to make sure that you've got all your measurements right. And when you're setting up your material, when you begin, if you haven't got one of these at all, always start with something a little softer so that you get used to using the jig properly before you actually go into sort of doing some fancy bits and pieces. So perfect parallel in the width, perfect parallel in the thickness, and nice and square. And that's probably a fundamental thing that most people would do anyway when they're making things. So
Carl,
I'm not ducking fussy. What's going on?
Don't worry about Stephen, he's a bit of a rabble road. Carl, you also mentioned to me this morning that you prepare the full length of the timber and sand it prior to cutting it to length.
Sometimes I do that.
Okay.
Most of the time what I'll do is I'll get the pieces of material and then cut them to size, and then I'll sand them.
Okay.
Right. Now I always sand both sides of the material because I don't like sanding on the inside of the box. It's just too hard. So sanded to 600, 800, whatever you want to be, whatever you want to do with it. So nice and clean and nice and smooth. Then what you need to do is looking at your grain. You have a look at the grain and see.
How about I switch the cameras around for us?
Dave.
Yep.
Thanks, mate.
We'll go to
To
that.
Okay. So what we're looking for is we're looking for grain and grain structure and all the things. Particularly here, I've got two different types of timber. I've got silky oak and rose mahogany. I want things to look a little bit similar.
Come over this
Front,
side, Cole.
Over this
No,
way.
the other way. Sorry.
That way.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, you can see where it's coming up.
You can see.
Beautiful.
You can see the grain sort of runs along the bottom there, and you've got the smaller medullary rays showing at the top of the timber there. So that might look good at the top of the box. So what we're doing now is just going to establish the bottom of the box and the outside of the box, and I do that by putting a face side mark on the timber. That's after they've been sanded, after they've been cut square. So normally I would use a piece of chalk, basically because when you're using textures or pencils or things like that, you're either getting ink to settle into your timber, which is hard to get rid of, or you're scoring across with a sharp pencil and you're cutting through the grain, which is equally hard to get rid of. So a bit of chalk is always a good idea. But for this purpose here, I'm going to use a texture so that you can actually see what I'm doing. Okay, so what I do is I put a face side mark on. Now the face side mark actually points at the bottom of the box. This is very important. And this is going to be the outside of the box. So I'll do that to all these pieces of timber. So I've got it like so. And you can see it. Okay, so I've got that all set up, ready to go. Get rid of that. Don't need that anymore. And now it's time to set up the jig. Now, before you start, cut yourself a test joint. All right? The test joint will allow you to fit your joints spot on every single time. And once you've done that, well then you can go ahead and make your boxes. So, setting it up, Can we see in there again, Dave? It's just...
How's that? Is that better for you, Matteo?
Yeah, great. What was that? Beautiful day in Northern Rivers? Okay.
Shame
So
we're
what
not
I'm
there.
doing here is I'm setting up my piece of timber. Now I'm going to cut my dovetails in the rose mahogany. I always cut my dovetails first, of course. So I'm going to sit that in there like that. Bring up a stop.
Slide her over that way a bit further,
Slide
Cole.
it
It's
that
aimed
way.
right for the centre of that.
Gosh.
That, there.
Oh, okay. So
There
if
we
I'm
go.
in front of it. Okay, like that. Slide up my second stop. Okay, so now I'm basically ready to cut the material. If I cut it like that, the router bit would tear the piece off the jig. So with my trusty Bessie clamp, I'll lock that in place. Now, because my timber's over 100mm wide,
There you go, guys. Is
I'll
that any
need-
better?
I'll need that. Oh, right, your left.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I've
all
shut the
good.
top image off, so it's going to be easier for everyone to see what you're doing.
Oh, okay, that's great. Okay, so now basically I'm ready to cut. So that's all the setting up you really need. Oh, geez, I picked it up then, didn't I? That's all you need to do to set it up. Now, when you're cutting the dovetails, which we always do first, all of our jigs come with the correct router bits. Okay, so they're the correct router bits. This one here's the A10. This one cuts material between 5 and 13. For all of those outside Australia who use imperial measurements, around about 1/4 to 1/2 inch. Okay, so if you're making little boxes, that's usually a pretty good thickness to work with. But what I'm doing here is I'm going to use the dovetail cutter first. Okay, so that's what it looks like. I'll get up and get close to the camera. Okay, and it's got a little bearing on it. The bearing runs against the template, and this is how we use it.
Now, Cole, you hit it with a little bit of camellia oil on the bearing when you put it in this morning.
Yeah, when you first start with these here, the bearings are relatively dry. So a little bit of oil, a little bit of oil in there. Now don't over oil it, otherwise you're spraying it all over the place. Just one little drop. What you're trying to create is a little slurry in there. Okay, so if anything gets in there, because you're upside down on a router table, you'll find that you'll get sawdust sitting on top of it, and eventually it seeps into the bit. If that's kept wet all the time, you'll find that your bearings will last quite a long time. So a little bit of oil. When I start every day, toothbrush, give it a bit of a scrub, and then another drop of oil. So, cutting the joints. So what I want to do is just sort of tighten that up so that we don't
Yeah, we don't want that flying out.
want it flying off.
We should. Remember, it's a 19 on it.
Oh, that's
it.
right. Yep. It's a little different to the setup that I have, but the jig will work on any router table. Now, when I'm setting the height for the joints, I always use my opposing piece of material. So this is the piece of material that's going to fit into there. So that's the bit I use to adjust the height. Sit that on. I did it
You
again.
went to go
I
underneath
did it
again.
again. On my table, I adjust underneath, and this one here, it's from the top, as I said right at the beginning. Okay, so we just want to wind that down, shift that out of the way. Now, when I'm cutting my joints, I always make sure that I've got a little bit sticking through each of the joints, so that when I've got the box built, I can sand off the joints. So about 1/2 millimetre, and when you do it 100 times, you eventually get to feel what 1/2 millimetre is. Lock her up. See how easy that is. Okay, so now we're ready to go.
Wait for it. I'll turn the dusty on.
Dust tractor.
Push it all the way in.
Yep.
When you're
Right.
ready.
Can you see that?
Yeah. Push down.
That's got a little vibration there, hasn't it?
Yeah, just on at that middle frequency, it's slowing down a little bit of vibration. It's the extender.
And see, that will give you a nice clean joint. Okay, so when you turn it over, the backing board on the jig is actually a sacrificial board. Okay, so eventually you're going to throw those away and put a new set on, and you can see that it's cut into the back of the board, just there. What that's done, supported the route a bit as it's come through, give you a nice clean surface on the back of the joint. Okay, so when you look in the box, you actually can't see any tear out or anything happening in the box. Okay. Now, when you're doing the, I'll just put that there. When you're doing the pins to go in those, turn the jig around like so. Set your piece of timber up. Now, you'll notice when I set it up last time, when I set this up here, you'll notice I had my face side mark pointing against my red stop. Okay, that's basically what I call the red stop, which is where the red knob is. I've got a black one on this end, of course. So once I've got that done, I've got to make sure that the end of my face side mark is actually pointing at the red stop. You do that on the first cut of every board. Okay, so if I was going to cut this side, I would have it set up like that. All right. Now, before I cut the others,
I'm going to tip the camera up just a little.
A little bit. Yeah, come up a little higher.
A little higher than that again.
You just no, yeah.
About there. How's that,
That's
everyone?
good. Yeah. Okay, so go back to where I was.
Yep.
Okay. So that's where I was, and that's where I cut the joints. What I want to do is I want to cut some joints on the other end. So now it's just a matter of rotating like that, making sure my face side mark is on the outside. So then I'll put my piece of timber back. On the top of the jig, you'll see that there's a couple of little flat plates, okay, on the top. They're actually designed to hold a Bessie clamp, okay. Now, the reason I've got a little short Bessie clamp is because I don't want it to dig into me as I'm working. So, working over the top of it like that, you tend to have, if you've got the longer ones, they tend to sort of jab you as you work.
I'm not going to worry about the dust extraction this time, Cole. I normally use my fence to collect, but we'll just let it go.
Okay. Okay, so there's one board, and very quickly, because I've got the other one marked, remember, first cut, face side mark pointing out, and the bottom of the board actually pointing at my red stop. So that's my first cut again for this board.
It's pretty quick.
Doesn't take very long, does it?
No, I'm surprised.
Just make sure, you'll see I tip it up like that. What I'm doing is just making sure that I'm hard down on top of the stop, the top of the template. And if it's not, we'll just readjust. Like so. Kiwi got that super cheap too?
I've got no idea.
No idea?
No idea.
Okay, so here we go, and then we just rotate again. And then we're going to just finish off the dovetails. So what we have there now is two boards with perfect dovetails cut. And how long did that take? 5, 10 minutes?
Not even that.
So pretty quick. So now to do the pins, we rotate our board.
A question there for you, Cole. Sean's asking you, could you cut 2 panels at the same time if the stock was thin enough?
Sometimes that's a good idea, but if you're using thin material, you've got a gap between the two when you cut them, and sometimes you get a bit of tear out. You probably could. I don't ever try it.
What about
No, it won't. It won't on the dovetails because you're cutting through the pieces of
But on the pins
that.
it might.
But on the pins it will. You can't actually cut them both at the same time because you're cutting on a tapered finger.
Yes, it is available in the States, Andy. I'll put a link to Cole's website at the end of the show.
Available in the States from Australia.
From Australia, that's right.
From Australia.
So I'll put a link to Cole's website at the end of the show so that you'll be able to just jump in and do an order there for international stuff. Most countries in the world they'll send to. There's some countries that
postage is a bit
it
dodgy.
may not get there. So they don't do that. All right, I'm going to switch it back to the other camera again. Let me see if this is the one. Gotcha. There you go. Now what are we going to do now?
What we'll do, Dave, is when I cut the last of these joints, we'll flick to the bigger cameras because I want to show a profile of how to actually set the body up.
So we need this out.
So that out.
And then you go for it with the lock. Oh, you're better than me at it. This is all new to me, this lift as well. So
up.
Other
up,
way. Down.
Up.
Oh, up. Yep.
Up.
Yep. Oh, I'll tell you
Gosh.
what. I'm lucky you're here, Cole. We got plenty of time. We're only 22 minutes into the show.
Oh, really?
Yeah, ages left.
Stacks of time.
Yep.
Okay, so
Ron, there's all sorts of different prices on the sets, buddy. Look, there's
have a
all
look on our
different
website. Have a look on our website. They're actually templates that we call them templates. Yeah.
Yep. You don't call them combs?
No, we don't call them combs.
Well, just looking at your hair, I understand why.
My favourite hairdresser's locked down, guys. Give us a break.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, opposing piece of material, and just adjust it down. Got it the right way first time.
Ah, beautiful.
So
you're a natural. Correct.
Doing the dovetails is fun.
Yep.
what was that?
Just reading Mike Hughes' comment there. The Gifkins jig makes the actual dovetails a minor part of making the box. Where before it used to be a major drama. You wait till he puts this box together at the end of the show, or when he's done, you'll be amazed.
Okay, so
We hope. We hope.
we hope. Remember what I said before, face side mark out and pointing at the red stop. So now we have to cut in a wider space. Now you'll notice that when I cut through here, I ran, you can see that? When I ran down the inside and came out, well, on the right hand side and came out the left hand side, the size of that bearing is about 2/1000 smaller than the space that we're working in. So you've got to work both sides of the space, okay? And it's not a big deal for the dovetails because it's fairly close. But when you look at the pin side, you'll notice that there's quite a wide space between all of the pins. So you need to make sure that you work the whole space. Now, one of the things that has to happen is, and this is something that we do all the time, is to cut across the face of the joint so that we don't get too much tear out on the front of the joint rather than the outside. It's not a big deal. Could you put two boards side by side and then cut them? Yes, you could, but you have to have two sets of stops. And they need to be set up exactly right, otherwise your fit won't work. Okay.
Right, I'm just trying to find another camera with a side chat. Look, what I'll do is I'll go up to there for the moment. Whoop.
Get Vicky to give you a clip while you're there.
Yeah. Okay, so you've read the chat. I'm going to go back to the other.
I don't know.
I'll go back to that one.
I don't know how to do. Okay. All right, we're cutting across the face of, this is all new to me, guys, so yeah, bear with me. I need to cut across the face of the joint first to stop that tear out. That's what I said before. The other thing is remembering that your face side mark should be pointing with the first cut of these as well at this, because everything's lined up by eye. I didn't line anything up by using a ruler or any measurements or anything like that to get them fitted. And what I want is I want the box to be perfectly flat in the top and the bottom, right, to fit together. So
can I ask you a question there?
Yeah, mate.
The question I've got is, you're going to turn this up the other way anyway.
Yes.
So is there any reason to have, you need the face mark facing out.
Yep.
But is there any reason to start to the blue side, the red side?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. If you don't do that, you end up with little steps because everything's done by eye.
Yeah.
And if you're out the tiniest little measurement, particularly when you're adjusting or changing a joint, you end up with a little step at the top or the bottom.
All right.
Okay,
All right.
so
I'll take your word for it.
pieces are like that.
It's just I can't understand why it's going to go in there. You're going to turn it over anyway.
Yeah. Well, you did the same on this side.
Yes, yes.
So whatever happens on this side is replicated on that side.
All right.
Yeah?
Okay. We need this in here for you. She's all locked in.
Yeah.
There we go.
Terrific.
All yours.
Thank you. So I'll start on the right-hand side, move across to the left-hand side, like so, and then cut through. Okay? A couple of times in and out.
That, Warren, it's only for router tables. You can't use this with a plunge router the other direction. Planty, yes, that is the extension bit holder in there. And you'll listen to it as it slows down. Hear that little vibration as it's getting down to around about 10,000 RPM. Now that doesn't happen with the standard thing in the Triton, but it's just a mid-range vibration. When it's going fine. When it's flat out. So, go figure. It works.
Dave Rowlands, what was that area made?
All right, you'll type something up.
Check me up.
Yep.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is just rotate. I think Dave's referring to the not cutting the joint on the, not having the face side mark
Right.
on the red stop on the first cut every time.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, see, because my question was, you're still going to have your face mark facing out this direction.
Of course.
When you flip it over, does it really
It's
matter
because
if it's facing that way or that way?
On your first cut, you have it facing the same way every time, basically because it's the movement sideways.
All right.
That so you're set up here,
Yep.
and if you've got a little space there and a bigger space on this side, if you cut it, turn it over, you'll end up with a space. I'll show you at the end of it.
All right.
Because
I'm still not seeing it, but I'll take your word for it. Cause
what I'll do is I'll cut these joints and I'll turn and I'll put one in backwards.
Okay.
Right? And I'll show you exactly what happens.
It's running perfectly while it's going. It's not a problem. And we're not even wearing earmuffs because I've soundproofed the cabinet. Well, I haven't soundproofed it, but I've got a whole lot of high density foam rubber around and below and around the walls. There's still a lot of breathing area so the router doesn't get hot. And when I turn the dust extractor on, it's pulling air past the router so it doesn't get hot. Back to Cole.
Okay, so I've got to cut the other board. I'll show you that in a sec. So now what I've done is just had to make sure that they're pointing out. And if we just pop those in, they actually slide in quite nicely and we get quite a nice
I'll go full screen for you
smooth.
there.
Yeah, thanks,
Cole.
mate.
Give me a second. Okay, show them how snazzy the joint is.
Okay, so that's only taken a few minutes and I can actually put that in with a couple of fingers. Okay, so that's like that. It's nice and snug.
Down lower, in front of this one.
Oh, we go.
That's
We're
it.
there. Okay, so nice and snug, and nice and clean, nice and tight. Okay. Now, if I didn't start with my face side mark up against the red stop every time, this is what happens. I'll just turn that over so that I've got them back to front. The joints will fit beautifully, but feel that, Dave?
Yeah, but you've got your face on the inside.
Yes, I know. I've turned the thing backwards.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's back to front.
Okay. Now here's my question.
And that's what
I can feel that step.
Yeah.
This is what I was. Man, that's a lovely joint. My question was, if that's face to face, that's great. So and that will go into there perfectly. Because let me see how it goes. Oh, look at that. How snug is that joint? Look at that. And perfect there and perfect there. You want one, don't you?
The idea of making sure that you're up against that is so that you've got a flat surface here and here. Okay, we don't want to spend a whole lot of time trying to plane that flat or sanding it. If you've cut your timber correctly, you should be able to join the two pieces together without any fiddle around on the top of there.
That's magic.
Okay,
Looks beautiful.
So
What have we got to do next? This
I'll
one?
just do this one,
Yep.
and then I'll put the 4 pieces together. Okay,
I'll
so
go back to the chat again so you guys can see what's happening.
this, don't forget to give Dave a thumbs up.
Yeah, they do
I'll
that.
give him a thumbs up. Where's the camera?
Yeah,
Here
when
we
he
go.
stops giving you rubbish.
So if I turned it around like that and cut it, I don't know whether I've got it this way or that way, or where it's lined up. I know that every time it's going to be lined up perfectly there, and that's going to fit the line up on this other one.
You know what it is, you're too good at actually placing it in the sweet spot every time.
Yes. Not everybody does it
Okay,
right.
Cole, if you were to just turn this up the other way now and put it in,
Yeah.
with that facing over there, would that make any difference?
Yes, it'll give you that little step across the top
Why?
because of where it's lined up on the.
No,
on
but
the-
when
on
you
the
when you
template.
you're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, but you're being consistent across all 4 pieces. And if
Yeah.
it's off centre, say you placed it more off centre, then you'd really notice.
That lovely
We're
voice
not
is
we're not
Pamela,
moving
by
we're
the
not
way.
moving these at all though.
No, we're not moving those, but
So-
they might not be in the right place on the template.
But
they,
you're gonna-
they might be moved along here. They might be too far this way or too
Yeah.
far that way.
All right.
Okay.
You still haven't convinced me. I'm a shocker.
Steve, who was it, Steve or Ron?
I don't know.
One of the guys has had the problem already.
Yeah, probably David. Not me.
Oh, he's
David,
picking on
David
you,
Roberts.
Dave. He's picking on you, Dave.
What do we got there? Don't forget to give. Yeah, okay.
Think about
the
getting
incorrect
this job.
Positioner can do dovetails as well. Yeah, look, there are many types of dovetail jigs out there. The thing is, the Gifkins is one that when I was speaking to one of the guys at Carbatec that I work with, who went to Sturt School of Woodworking, he said the Gifkins jig is just the absolute easiest to use, and you can see how easy it is. It's got me stumped a little bit with this not putting it in either way, but I'm sure I'm going to work out the reason why. Cole will have a chat with me this afternoon and put me in the line, get his stick out, because he's an ex-school teacher you're aware of,
Oh.
and I'll keep back away, keep my social
There's
distancing.
no chalkboard here, Dave.
There is no. Okay. Yeah, so
Okay.
Dave Francis is saying, yeah, you're right, because you're going to cut it anyway. So
Yeah.
but I guess it's just a routine that you're into, and that this is how you do it, and so you don't get confused as you're going further down the track with other boxes.
Correct. There is that to it, but the underlying part of it is if you don't do it right, you're going to find out you're going to little steps on top and bottom, right?
Yep. So
So-
we've had a comment here. He's been using the jig for years. Don't need to understand the logistics of it. Just do it, and it'll work. Just
Hey,
follow the instructions.
Who was that? Ron? Was it?
No, someone. They're gone now.
Oh, okay.
As long as both timbers are pointing to the same side, would it make any difference? That's been my question.
Yeah.
That's fine.
It has to be. Yeah.
We all good?
What was that one? I'm going to finish.
Now that part's pretty important, doing that across the face, Cole, so you don't get
Yes.
the tear out.
You can
as
see.
you're coming back the other direction.
You can see. I've got
So
a
that's a
little bit
climb
of
cut basically on
tear
that
up.
side, isn't it?
No, it's actually not.
No,
It's-
you're turning conventional, but when you go to the
No,
other
it's
side,
not. It's not a climb cut. Oh, it's climb cut
it's
coming
climb
out.
cut coming out.
Coming out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you can see this little bit of tear out that's occurring there.
Yep.
That's very minimal. That's not really a problem.
That's excellent.
But it's just a matter of being on top of it when you're doing it and making sure that you actually get it done right. Okay.
Yes, Mike. Those comments were made right at the beginning of the show that the timber preparation is very, very important. It must be the same thickness all the way through, same width, and sanded and everything before you start. Everything square. Just good joinery practice, and away
You're
you
right.
go. And then the
You're
G's
right,
going to do
Mike.
the rest for you.
Yeah, I'm quite right. It's always good practice anyway, to make sure that you start with thank you.
We're all done with it.
Yeah, we're all done with it. Okay,
pretty
so when you're pulling them apart, you'll notice that I sit it on the edge of the desk. Or I can't see.
Yeah, back that way a bit further. There you go.
Come back here?
Yep.
Okay, so I sit it
I'm
on
gonna
top
switch
of the
to
desk.
the other camera for you, buddy.
Yeah,
Give me
right.
a second.
I wanted to.
There.
Yeah. So when you're pulling them apart.
Don't believe me, just grabbed
support-
another one from under the table you made earlier.
Okay, so fitting up. Like so. That one pops in there. Now, if you have to use any more pressure than this to put your joints together, then you need to adjust the jig, okay? And there's my perfect box frame.
The ends will need to be sanded because with any end grain, you're going to sand the end grain anyway. So you always leave them just a touch proud, only
Yeah.
a little bit.
You only have a little bit, 1/2 millimetre. What's that in American speak?
1/32.
1/32. Okay, so just a 30-second or so, or a millimetre, and just sand them off afterwards. Okay, but I also say to you, make sure that you've got use something that will come off the side when you do your face side mark. Like I said, I use chalk. So there's
You just had a question there from Matteo. Can you do a dovetail inside another dovetail, double with the jig? So I'm guessing run a 3/4 inch cutter through and then glue a piece in and then run it again through with the smaller.
You can, but it takes a little bit of fiddle to get it actually to line it up.
Okay. But if you're happy to spend the time.
Yeah, there's lots of things you can actually do with that to make that look nice. I do all sorts of things with little boxes and so forth to send the apprentice out for coffee. Wayne Jones. I got a brother-in-law called Wayne Jones. 5 thumbs up. Thanks, Ron. And Terence, mate, we have them for sale if you ever want to get one.
You like the dual mics, do you?
That's a good idea.
It works well, doesn't it?
Yeah. So basically, that's the little box. You can use that box for anything. If you just put a bottom in it, what we can do is just leave it as a box like that and use it as a, like put spanners in it or pens or,
That's lovely.
So you can do all sorts of things with it just to create little shops around, and they're all beautiful joints. When you look at it, you can see they've got perfect joints. Every single one of them is spot on.
I'll bring the camera in close so we can have a look at those joints. Give me a second.
Yep. So what I look for when I'm looking at the joints, I just want a reasonably snug fit, and you can see that all the joints are actually perfectly lined up. They're perfectly fitted, right? The back end of them is actually quite neat and quite nice. Now, I've got 2 different timbers, which is giving you a good contrast. But even when you've got a box that has the same timber all the way around, you're still going to get that same contrast because you've got end grain showing on both on your dovetails and your pin ends. Now, you'll notice when you look inside the box, if you can see that in there, you can see how clean it is on the inside as well. So that's really, really nice. The beauty about it is you don't need a lot of glue to actually hold that together anymore. You've got to allow expansion and contraction due to humidity, but you can get a nice clean sharp bit inside there. So it's
on that. And if you come back to about there, that's a good focus point.
I was trying to get up close so they can
Yeah. They don't need to. They'll see it perfectly.
Right. Okay. Well, there you go. So that's just basically a little box frame. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you a couple little boxes that I've got made.
While Cole's getting the boxes, Wacky Woodworks, I'll put a link at the end of the show in the description box down the bottom, so that you can grab one from Cole if you want. And also, what else have we got here? Now, Dave Rollins was saying you can do it a slight angle too for sloping sided boxes. Is that right?
Yes, you can. The best angle to get your best fit is generally about 15 degrees. Okay, so try 15 degrees. When I'm doing the butterflies in the top of the thing, I've got that at 45 degrees, but I have a different technique to do for that. Okay, so
Okay, Dave Monet's got a question there. Are there other spacing templates available?
Yes, there's 5 different templates for the jig. Okay, hang on, locking it or unlocking it?
Unlocked that way.
I've unlocked it.
Okay, now also...
I just want to take this out of here for safety reasons.
Down. Oh, sorry,
I'm gonna
sorry.
go
Up. You're
I'm
right
going-
again. I'm
yeah.
wrong again. Okay, so are there ones for staggered styles of dovetails, or are they all the templates regular?
Yeah, they're all regular.
Okay.
The thing about the templates is there's 5 different templates, and most people just buy a template to do pretty much one thing, but you can do lots of different things with them. I'll explain in a sec when I get the little boxes there. I just want to take that route a bit out of there for safety reasons.
Yep. So bought mine from Roger Gifkins years ago and highly recommend it. It's from Ian.
Well,
Now-
Ian, good on you, Ian.
And
We've still got bits for those ones.
Kerry blue one, maximum width of box sides that can be fit on the jig.
Okay, this one here, let's get that jig again. I'll just explain there's lots of questions there, guys, and I'll just try and explain the best I can. The templates, this is what we call a standard jig.
Pam wanted to get on the show. Say hello.
Hi everybody, I hope you're enjoying the show.
This is what we call our standard. These are the easiest dovetail jigs on the market to set up and so far. I quite agree, Dave. These are what we call our standard template, a standard jig. Okay, there's 5 different templates. They all work by thickness of timber. Now, the smallest one cuts dovetails between 2 and 10 millimetres. That's what we call the H10. You'll notice on the end of that, there's some markings there. This one is the A10, cuts between 5 and 13 mil. There's a bigger one that cuts between 13 and 22 millimetres. So that's our 3 dovetail range. And then we've got 2 finger joint ranges. So you can do finger joints. I noticed in a little box over there, you've got finger joints on it,
Yeah.
Dave. The finger joint ones, there's only 2 of those. There's one that cuts 5 to 13 mil thickness, and the other one cuts 13 to 22 mil. All right. Now a standard jig will cut up to 300 mil, or thereabouts. So if you're making a draw, generally a 300 millimetre draw is a pretty deep draw. Okay, so this can be used for all sorts of things: drawers, bits of furniture, small boxes and the like.
I'm going to move this out of the way.
Okay, so you can have a little play with that. Now we do have another one that cuts up to 580, which is what we call our jumbo jig, and people who are making blanket boxes, small pieces of cabinetry, bookcases and the like, where you've got a fair bit of width in the piece of timber, it'll cut up to 480 millimetres wide. Okay, so that's nearly half a metre. So that's a pretty wide piece of timber that you're cutting joints in. That has 4 templates: Jumbo A, Jumbo B, F5, F15. Okay, so you can use them all to cut various bits and pieces. The problem you have though is that this template doesn't fit on the jumbo, and the jumbo template doesn't fit on this jig. Okay, the jig body is a standard body.
What a shame. They're going to have to buy 2 off you,
Buy
Cole.
2 jigs.
Oh, dearie me.
So, yeah, and so you can buy, and then you can buy all the parts that go on them. Okay, so we have all of those bits and pieces available. We generally don't sell the aluminium on its own because that's something that we have made in Newcastle and here in Australia. So you can make your own backing boards. It's just 12 millimetre MDF, and basically that's your setup. So it's simple, it's easy, it's not complicated, and you can get some beautiful results. And some of those results are these here. Okay, so this is probably a simple little box that we make. Okay.
I think we need the close-up camera for that one.
Close up.
Actually, how about we just bring this fellow in closer,
That's a good idea.
and then it's full HD. There you go.
Okay.
There you can see what they can see.
And my head's in the.
So it's better than full HD.
Okay, so this is what we call our postmodern box, and it was named by a friend of ours who works at Japanese Tools, and he thought, very postmodern, and it's a little rounded top, 4 millimetre thickness in the lid. Okay, the timber combinations are quite nice. This one here is rose mahogany and hewn pine. Now, as I was saying to you before about the variations and having a look at the contrast of timbers, this one here is the same timber all the way around, and as you can see, the joints still stand out. Oh, put it up where you can see it. The joints still stand out, okay, and looks quite nice sitting on a box. Now the joints I've used in this one here, this little box, are what we call our H10. That's the smaller one that I said to you earlier, okay? It's 2 to 10 millimetre thick. And you'll notice with this particular box, what I've done here is all of my side panels and front panel, they're all 8mm material. And because I've got some hinges, and these are Brusso hinges.
There we go.
These are Brusso hinges, 10mm thick piece at the back. So I've gone the full range of the jig and cut myself perfect dovetails without having to change anything, okay? So quite nice. And then of course I've made a little separator that fits in the box as well, all right? So that's quite a nice little box. The next one I'll show you is, this is what we call our trinket box. It's an uneven sided box where you've got thin front and back, okay? High at the sides so that the top actually rolls into the box, rolls out of the, sits inside the rolled out edges of the box, okay? And again, you'll notice little butterflies that actually hold the miters together. I've developed a jig to do that.
We did have a question about that,
and
Cole.
we had a question about it, and it's a very complicated answer, unfortunately. So that's that one. Then we get into something that's a little bit more elaborate. Now, this box is one that we've used a special piece of timber in the top of it. It's a very rare bird's eye lace she oak. Now, Western Australian timber, very hard to find, very expensive timber when you're trying to buy those sorts of bits of timber. But the rest of the box is simple stuff. The time it took me to make the frame was the same time it took me to make that. Okay, it's all the other bits and pieces that you do on the box. This is what we call our special jewellery box. And you'll see when you get inside it, it's actually quite nice on the inside. It's got those little basket trays. Now all the basket trays are all dovetailed as well. I'll just hold one of those up for you. You can see it's got dovetails in the side of it. I've got dovetails in the bottom. I've got dovetails in the handle at the top of it. So everything's dovetailed. And it sits in like this. And if you have a look at that, we call this a piston fit. Nice and snug. And that's a relatively nice box. Again, butterflies in the top to hold the miters together.
Cole, do you ever sell any of these boxes that you make as well, or do you just make them and
when
Pam's got 5,000 of them?
She's got 5,000. She's got 5,000 of them because as soon as I do a nice one, you're not selling that. No, you can't sell that. And so this.
So you do sell them?
Yes, we do sell them.
Okay.
Yep.
They're on your website?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes, they are.
Okay.
Now, this is a stapled box that we make. This is a stapled box that we make. Okay, so they're standards. Somebody said to me the other day, this is too nice a box, not the other day, but some time ago, and said to me, what about making stuff to fit in a boat? Which got me thinking. I took the frame for that, and instead of putting all of this beautiful stuff on the inside, I added it to the outside. Exactly the same frame as that one there. Okay, so it's 200 by 300, 12mm cedar, and I just added a top and a bottom and a back on the back of it, and then I added some drawers. Just little drawers like so, and each of the drawers has got its own special compartments. This one here has a nice little drawer in it. So pretty simple, pretty easy. The amount of time taken to make this was about the same as making that other box there. So two different things, and when you look at both of them together, you can see very vastly different. Okay, so you've got this one with all of this stuff inside it. Lots of work, lots of effort, and this beautiful little cabinet. Okay, so there's lots of things you can do with it without being too fussy about your joints. Okay. So I might hand it back to you, Dave.
I'm trying to get the white balance right here. it's giving me a bit of curry.
Okay.
So we'll jump back to there and see if I switch that over there like so. It's one of those things.
Soul Solutions. So Soul Solutions, if you want to buy it, go onto our website and we'll and you can get it off us. We're the only sellers of it, unfortunately. We don't sell it to anybody around the world to on sell. So if you want one, have a look and we can send you a product booklet and yeah.
Just throw in your search engine, Gifkins Gifkins dovetail.
Gifkinsdovetail.com.au.
Gifkin. It's
Yes.
not a GIV, it's F, which is a common mistake. And you'll find it. It's not an issue. I got the white balance terrible there, haven't I? It's gone too pink now. Oh well. We'll let it
That's
run.
for Pam.
We'll let it run. We'll let it run.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So Gifkins dovetail.com.au. Seabreeze.
And I'll throw a link in the description box at the end.
So thinner front and back of size is the only times you need to ensure that start with the same bottom. Red light, as I was suggesting earlier. Yes, well, not really. You need to do it all rather than just when you're doing thin or thick. Okay?
Guys,
Thanks, DM.
I'm going to throw these pictures up of that planing in because I've got some stuff written here that Brett sent in to me. So give me a second. I'm going to go back to that picture and we can still keep on asking Cole questions.
Okay.
Give me a second.
Bob, I've used Danish oil and over with a wax over the top of it. Finishing is not just slapping something on there and expecting it to look pretty. You've actually got to work it. Thanks, Wayne. You've actually got to work it. So when I'm finishing my boxes, I work from 180 grit all the way through to say 1200 grit before I actually put a finish on it. If you don't do that, what you're doing is you're not preparing the surface for your finish. Now, I'll use a Danish oil. The one that I use most of the time is organ oil. Livos oil is actually another good one. Once all that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to raise the grain as soon as you get it wet, and then it's just a matter of resanding. And I do that with 2000 grit, and then I'll do another coat before I actually spend a couple of days letting it sit by, and then I'll put couple of coats of wax on it. And now, the thing about waxes and oils, there's hundreds of them on the market. It's always a good idea to experiment a little bit and try and try and figure out what you want with your finishes, how you want it to look, because they don't always look perfect. The way I've worked this might be not the same as what you're getting, so it's a good idea.
Yep.
Have a play with it, have an experiment with it, get some bits and pieces. Experiment with things like French polish and so forth, and you will find eventually you'll get yourself a result that's like to your liking. Some people like shiny, some people like dull, some people like semi-gloss. Lots of people will say, oh, you can't have this, you can't have that. Well, mate, you make up your own mind. Decide what you want to do with it.
I'm just going to show you something that I've been doing. This is a panel that I've done with whittle waxes, and it's probably not going to be the best camera to show you right at the moment. This is matte, classic, satin and gloss. And I took these up to I stopped with these ones around about 400 grit. Now, if you go all the way up to, into the 1000 with this particular product, everything will be gloss. So that's a little thing as well, just to be aware of. As Cole was saying, if you're experimenting with different types of waxes, see what works for you. But obviously, the finer the finish that you can get at the first place, the better you're going to get. But be aware with whittle waxes, it will go gloss if you go really high in your grits.
Mm. That's a good thing, Dave. That's something that you should do. If you've got bits of scrap timber, I don't generally use the word scrap because I find that scrap is what you throw out. I always purpose offcuts and use them for something else. So I make lots of these little boxes out of offcuts that I use when I'm making a bigger box, and they're quite a little attractive gift or something like that for somebody if you want to give them to the kids for holding their pencils on their desk. Perish the thought. But it's always a good idea to have those little bits and pieces left over, but use them up. Don't throw them out. And they're not scrap. They're actually offcuts, bits and pieces.
You got someone on your side at the moment, Cole. Wants to know how much to send over to New Zealand before he pushes the buy now button.
We can talk to him about that. We can contact him.
These guys will contact you.
Wacky Wood, we'll get on to you, mate, and we'll get something to you if you can. Just make sure we get an email, and we'll be good. Now, Dave Francis, unfortunately not. Sorry, we're too small.
No.
Anyway, but I think somewhere down the track we might be able to do something, but it's going to take a little bit of a setup. So
To give you a rough idea of the effort that Cole and Pam have put in for today, they live in Coffs Harbour. They've driven 600 kilometres yesterday afternoon, stayed in a motel overnight. We're here at 8:30 this morning, and we'll hang around for maybe an hour or so after the show this afternoon, and then they've got to drive another 600 kilometres home again. So that's, what's
Make
that,
it
450 miles
yeah,
on?
yeah.
You know, it's no small potatoes. These people make a beautiful product, and they realise the importance of social media and events like this, because we haven't had any timber tools and artisans show for a little while. So Cole can't get out to shows because social distancing is happening. That's hence I'm sitting way back here, standing back here, not, you know, right in his pocket. But these guys are a small operation. They spend a lot of time to make sure
Thanks,
the
Dave.
product is perfect, and hence there can't be any discounting at this stage. It's not built into it. You're getting a bargain price already. So you've seen how good they work. You've seen the master himself actually use them on my lovely router table, even though I did have a little issue at the beginning.
It's fine, Dave. It just, you've got to work around these things. Yeah, that's fine.
So look, I think if everyone can do a little bit of a round of applause and a thumbs up for Cole, that'd be fantastic. So
Thanks,
if
everybody.
you can say thanks down the side, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. And if you want to flick us an email and ask for prices, by all means, have a look on our website. Our shop's available every time. Thank you, Silver. I love the 5.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to try and stop Cole talking for a second if
okay.
I can.
That's
I
it.
just want to show you, I'm going to go back to these planes that Brett Thomas sent the pictures in. I showed him right at the beginning of the show. And he says, "Hi Dave, picked up this Turner number 4 on eBay some time ago and finally got round to bringing it back to life. It was in bad shape. The knob and tote are very tough and painted pink. The sole was heavily rusted and pitted, but a good soak in evaporust, some black paint and a good sand on the belt sander and some wet and dry has brought it back a treat. After a strip down in paint stripper, the knob was brought back the same way you did yours." And we'll go to another picture. "I made a jig on the lathe and then took to 3000 with micro mesh and finished with triple E polish. The tote was brought back by hand to the same finish. It took a few hours. Reassembled and tested, some nice results, and I still need to resharpen the blade. Thanks for inspiring me. Regards, Brett." So where are we? Back to here. And Pam's unwittingly in the picture, but she's good with that. So we've got all these people saying thank you very much, Cole. See you at the next Sydney show from Fix It Fingers. John Lowry, thank you, and Cole, for a great product. Woodwork Whiskers, Ash, really informative. Andy, hats off. Here in the States, I just ran past. Mark from Holland, round of applause. Robot 17, love your work, well done. Robert Hunt, thanks very much for all you do. Mike, thanks again. All the way down through Joe Martin, appreciate it, Cole. And I'm also going to read out my patrons' names, because that's the deal for a certain tier. If you want to be one of my patrons, you'll be able to join in with the Zoom meetings, and also you'll be able to have, for a particular tier, you'll be able to have your name read out, and also this is another tier that you can get one of these beautiful mugs, which everyone needs in their office. Okay, so here we go. So my patrons are Johannes Mohr, John W., John Parra, Vincent Ngian, John Lafferty, Peter Woolworth, Brian Shaw, Brian Del Vecchio, Justin Bailey, Brett Guthrie, his father Brett, Hilton Bond, Mike Deam, Tony Daniels, Wayne Cargill. No, I'm hoping it's father. Brett, if I've called it Catholic, I'm sorry, mate. Anyway, so thanks for watching, everyone. We're going to go to the Zoom in around about 2 or 3 minutes. Cole's probably just going to grab a quick drink of cup of tea, and then if you've got questions that Cole couldn't answer during the show, jump in on the Zoom. So just go to the Patreon page, look for the link that's there. If you haven't got it, you can click on the link. The password's in there, and we'll see you in about a few minutes. All right, so thanks everyone.
Thanks everybody.
Cole, say goodbye.
See you later, guys. If you have a question, by all means email us, and we can always try and answer them for you best we can, and then we can take it from there.
And don't forget, I'll put in the description box down the bottom the links for Cole's website, also the link for the competition to win one of these Carbatec lift and lock router lifts. So thanks everyone for watching. I'll do the midweek show on Wednesday, and then we'll have the main show again on Sunday, same time, same place. See you later. Look after yourselves, be nice to each other. I'll see you next week.